Hey everyone, welcome to our way too early 2024 Clemson Tigers win-loss predictions. What we're going to be doing is we are going to be taking a look at the entire season schedule for the 2024 college football season for the Clemson Tigers, going game by game, seeing which game we predict they'll win, which games we predict that they will lose. It's been a really crazy offseason so far. We have teams jumping to the ACC, we have the Pac-12 getting dissolved, we have teams jumping from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten, and in the offseason, we've had a lot of rumors of Clemson and Florida State trying to leave the ACC, which could obviously lead to a complete massive outflow of teams from the ACC conference. But all that is going on off the field. We have spring football going on right now. Clemson's had a lot of changes from last season. They have a lot of players off to the NFL. They've lost Trotter, Shipley, Rook, Wiggins, Thomas, Maskell, Davis, a lot of guys leaving, especially on the defensive side of the ball, but they did have a top 10 defense last year. The biggest thing that held them back was the offense, but they will be in year 2 under Garrett Riley. So they should definitely be airing things out. They've had a couple playmakers step up at the wide receiver position, and they still have Klubnik at quarterback. This team will go as far as Klubnik can carry them because they're still obviously going to have a top 20 defense this whole season. But go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. We are going to be covering everything coming up this year, college football and NFL football. And once the regular season starts, we go game by game every single week, going over the best bets. That's the spreads, money lines, and the over-under for every single college football game and NFL football game. But before the season starts, we're just basically going team by team and trying to predict the outcome to their schedule. So like I said, hit that like button and subscribe, and let's get things started. So looking at Clemson's football schedule, they've been recruiting pretty well. So this is a stock team. Obviously, a lot of people are somewhat unhappy with Dabo, the way that he works the transfer portal. They had a lot of luck. Obviously, they had Deshaun Watson. They had Lawrence. DJU didn't really work out. Gay Klubnik, they're both 5-star quarterbacks. They haven't necessarily lived up to their hype. So Clemson always had quarterback position locked down. There's been a couple question marks for the last 3 to 4 seasons, but can he live up to his hype? We're going to find out. Week 1, we have the Georgia Bulldogs in Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia's going to be coming into this season number 1. Clemson's probably going to be somewhere in the top 15. That's going to be one of the better matchups of week 1, if not the best matchup. A lot of people had Georgia Bulldogs as the team that should have went to the playoffs last year, but they did lose to Alabama. They didn't get their shot. This is a really talented team. Obviously, they have Kirby Smart. They have Carson Beck back at quarterback. They lost some playmakers, though. They lost McClunkley, they lost Brock Bowers, but they're going to have new guys step up, and they did get a lot of transfer portal players in. And obviously, Georgia has a top 2 roster in all of college football every single season. So when it comes to this game, Georgia is definitely going to be the favorite. I'm going to go with the Georgia Bulldogs getting the win here week 1. So Clemson's going to start out the year 0-1, but I don't think anyone is going to have them technically favored to beat Georgia. So that shouldn't be surprising so far, but everything is still in front of them. 12 teams make the playoffs this year, so you can potentially lose 1 or 2 games and still make the playoffs. And this is also an out-of-conference game. Next game we have Saturday, September 7th. We have the Appalachian State Mountaineers. This game is going to be in Clemson, South Carolina. Appalachian State's never one of those teams that you ever want to look past. They can't surprise you. Just ask Michigan. But Clemson's going to be out for blood. They just lost week 1, so I think they're going to put a spank down on Appalachian State. And their defense is definitely going to want to make up for that loss. So they're going to play hard this game. Clemson's, they're probably going to lose to the Bulldogs. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I could see like a 27-17 or 20 game. But Clemson rebounds with a win versus Appalachian State, and they'll probably win like I'd say a 40-20 game, and they'll be 1-1. Then Saturday, September 14th, they have a bye week, and then they pick things up right after that with another top 25 matchup, Saturday, September 21st, versus the NC State Wolfpack. They've brought in a lot of transfers this offseason. They were a good team last year. They had 9 or 10 wins last season. NC State's always one of those teams that kind of flies under the radar, but they always have a top 25 defense. They play especially good on the D-line. They're a very physical team. They do have some playmakers on offense, but it's their defense that's going to make this team competitive. Whenever you're playing someone with a top 25 defense, you never want to take a win for granted. Because if your offense isn't clicking right, they can keep the game just close enough to upset really good teams. So Clemson coming off the bye week with the win. This is a tough one. This is a game that I think Clemson could definitely get upset. They will be the favorite, though, in this matchup. But I see an upset somewhere. A game that Clemson will be slightly favored to win, that they're going to lose. I have Clemson, just like last year, starting out things kind of slow. I'm actually going to go with NC State to win this game. I think it's the defense. I don't think Klubnik's the guy. He's not a bad quarterback. He threw for like 2,900 yards last season, 21 touchdowns and 9 picks. He's not elite, and they're used to elite quarterback play. I think NC State beats them at the very end of the game, kind of a fourth quarter field goal that seals the game, and they win somewhere along the lines of like a 24-21 game. Hard-nosed game. Clemson falls to 1-2, and there's a lot of noise and a lot of pressure on Dabo at this point. The next game, Saturday, September 28th, we have the Stanford Cardinals. Obviously, there's also a lot of teams coming into the ACC this year. They're not very good teams outside of SMU. Stanford has not been very good at football for, the last 5 years. So Clemson, they're going to rebound. They're going to rally around Dabo. They're going to beat the crap out of the Stanford Cardinals. They're probably going to win, I'd say, a 52-10. And they move to 2-2, coming into a really big matchup versus Florida State. This game is in Florida State, Saturday, October 5th. They're going to be playing FSU. It's going to be a really fun matchup. Florida State had a lot of players leaving this past season. Obviously, Jordan Travis. They have wide receivers going in the first round. They lost a lot of defensive talent. They did rebound. They've been recruiting well under Norvell. They've been working the transfer portal really well. But I think Clemson's going to take a step back. Their quarterback is DJU, so obviously someone Clemson players are very familiar with. He did rebound pretty strongly with the Oregon State Beavers this past season, but I think Clemson is actually going to upset Florida State. Florida State will probably be the favorite here, but I'm going to go with Clemson to win on the road due to their defense. Their defense is going to be really good. It's going to keep them in every single game. You're never going to blow out Clemson. Every year they have a top 20, top 10 defense, and they're going to be out for revenge, rallying around the coach. Florida State, they have to take a step back. They're still going to be really good this season, but they lost a lot of NFL talent. They're still going to have a really good year, though. I think Clemson beats Florida State. They're now 3-2. Next game, October 12th, we have at Wake Forest, Demon Deacons. Wake Forest obviously didn't have a really good season last year at all. They haven't been the same since they lost Sam Hartman. But it's pretty hard to recruit to Wake Forest. Clemson, they're kind of hot right now. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They just beat a top 10 Florida State team. They're going to roll through Winston-Salem. I'm going to say Clemson wins this game probably about a 40-17 game, and they're now 4-2. After that, October 19th, we have the Virginia Cavaliers. This game is back in Clemson. Virginia, they've kind of fallen on hard times the last few seasons. Really good basketball program. Football program's obviously on pretty shaky ground. Clemson right now, they're riding a little bit of a winning streak. They're at 3 straight wins. They're probably, sitting pretty good so far. Polling-wise, they're 4-2. Probably sitting around number 21 or so. I have them beating the Virginia Cavaliers pretty handedly. Probably it'd be about a 38-13 game, and they now move to 5-2. Then they have another bye week, the week of Saturday, October 26th. So they're able to kind of lick their wounds. They're pretty hot right now. They want to make sure everyone's healthy. If they have any injured players, to start resting them for the second portion of the season. And then November 2nd on Saturday, we have the Louisville Cardinals. Louisville is obviously a team that won 10 games last season, but they had a lot of players finish out their career playing football. They ran out of years. But they've been working the transfer portal really hard under Jeff Brom. The guy knows how to find talent, but more importantly, he knows how to utilize the talent he has on the team. If he has a playmaker, he knows how to get them in space, get them the ball. They're bringing in a lot of transfer portal players. They lost pieces, but they're bringing in new pieces. They won 10 games last season. They went to the ACC championship game. They lost, but no one even projected them to have that good of a season in year one under Jeff Brom. So he's kind of building a foundation. This is a pretty good team. They always have a home field advantage, but they're not going to be at their home field. They're going to be in Clemson this game, but this is a potential upset game. Be alert, Clemson Tigers. You could definitely lose this game. Don't underestimate Louisville, but I have Clemson getting another win, beating another ranked team here, and they're now moving to 6-2. So things are sitting pretty good right now. 6-2, they're probably sitting around number 15 or 16. People are starting to buy back in, and then they have another really tough game Saturday, November 9th, the Virginia Tech Hokies. This game is in Virginia Tech, Blacksburg, Virginia. Virginia actually, out of nowhere, had a really pretty decent year last year. But what's more important was they were averaging about 220 yards per game on the ground. They were a physical running team. They've actually building a pretty strong foundation going forward. Whenever you're riding a really big win streak, like the Clemson Tigers are at this point of the season, you have to be on lookout for the upset game. And I think that's where this game potentially falls into. This game is in Blacksburg. Virginia Tech always has a lot of fans there. They're going to be a pretty good team themselves. They may even be ranked at this point. I think Virginia Tech gets the upset this game. Clemson, really good team. I don't think they're national championship level just because of the quarterback position. But they're still a really strong team. But I have them actually dropping this game, falling to, that's going to be 6-3. Strong season, potentially still going to be ranked around number 25, but they could also potentially fall out of the polls. There has to be an upset game somewhere. Clemson, like I've been mentioning, strong team, but not championship caliber team yet. So far they're still playing and falling about where they should at this point of the season. But now they have a loss, so the winning streak's ended. Now they need to re-rally, work on some of the points that they've been missing. On Saturday, November 16th, we have the Pitt Panthers. This is usually a team that always plays Clemson pretty tough, pretty physical. But Pat Narduzzi's team completely fell apart this past year. They had a really bad season. I don't see much really changing going into this season. They could still potentially be a 6, 7, 8 win team. Clemson is the more talented team, physical team on defense. Look for Clemson to rebound from their loss. They're too good. They're too talented. There's too many good defensive players, too much good coaching. They're never going to languish too long at the bottom. When they lose, they fix what they did wrong. They rebound the next week. That's what Clemson does. They beat the Pitt Panthers pretty hard. I'm going to say they beat them probably about a 44-17 game, and they get to 7-3. Definitely will be ranked. They follow that game up Saturday, November 23rd versus the Citadel Bulldogs. This game is also in Clemson. Obviously, this game's not going to be close. Clemson's going to curb stomp them. This game's probably going to be about a 55-7 game, and Clemson's now 8-3. So you see, not, probably making the playoffs. They could potentially make the playoffs, but still having a really strong season. And then the final game of the season, Saturday, November 30th, South Carolina Gamecocks. Now, this is a team that surprised Clemson 2 years ago, led by Shane Rattler. They beat them. Definitely didn't happen last season. South Carolina completely fell apart last season. Frank Beamer had a lot of pieces missing, though. Obviously, the defense completely fell off the rails last year. They were getting blown out every single game. They don't have the offensive pieces to be able to keep up. Clemson, they want to get the 9 wins because they want to potentially get 10 wins in a bowl game. Clemson beats them again this week. I'm going to say they probably win about a 34-21 game. Clemson's going to finish the regular season 9-3. I think the ceiling for the Clemson Tigers this year is 10-2. The bottom is 8-4. So 9-3 falls right in there. 10-2 would be a really strong season, and that could potentially line up to an ACC championship game where they have the shot to still make the playoffs. Even at 9-3, they could still have a shot at the ACC championship. Even if they're not in the top 12 teams, if they win the ACC, they go to the playoffs no matter what. So even finishing 9-3, Clemson still has a shot to make another run at the college football playoffs. Dabo, although they're not the Clemson of old, they're still one of the best programs in the country, one of the best rosters, with one of the best coaching staffs. Have faith. He'll get everything right. They just need to sort the quarterback position out. Possibly look for a couple weapons at the wide receiver position. But I have Clemson finishing the regular season 9-3 with a potential 10th win in the ACC championship if they make it. If not, a potential 10th win in a high-ranking bowl game. So that's my breakdown of the Clemson Tigers 2024 schedule. Hit that like button, subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below and I'll make sure to respond. Thanks.